Hi, everybody. This is Philip Shaw, checking in from Dresden, Ontario again, talking to my good friend, Dr. A.K. Namal Haq, for this particular segment of East West. I've been very busy harvesting the last little while, and sorry if you missed us. But today we're going to talk about technology, how that has changed so much over the time that we've known each other. It's interesting if you look back and just talking about computer technology for a few minutes. I can remember a time when uh, Dr. Hawk just kind of started in on computers, and I had to actually tell him what a floppy disk is. Now, the problem is nobody really knows what a floppy disk is anymore. But
No.
for a period of 20 or 25 years, it's something that we used a lot to transfer files, and that was before the internet and a lot of things like that. But I'm holding in my hand a little Huawei device that I bought in Bangladesh in January, and this little device is far more powerful than the first computer that I ever owned. It cost me 6,000 Canadian dollars. Over a period of decades, Dr. Hawk and I have been working with computers and technology and seeing how that's changed things, and it's quite interesting. He was on the what at that time was the IBM side. I was on the Apple side, and never the twain were to meet. And but needless to say, over a period of time with the internet, a lot of that stuff is evened out, and so now we can come to you from both sides of the world and actually communicate with you and talk about how things are different in different parts of the world and how technology has affected us. And I know in Bangladesh, last time I was there, January 2020, just before the COVID struck. And it's just amazing how the advent of computer technology and stuff like even cell phones has changed the way that we operate and changed the way we communicate and help make people's lives better. And certainly Bangladesh is a great example of how that happens. So take it away there, Nama, for now.
Yes, I think it's an interesting introduction. I remember the time I came in 84, 85, I believe it was 85, and we had our professor asked me to find a floppy disk. And for me, coming from Bangladesh at that time, I had no idea what it is. So I asked you, what is a floppy disk? And from that on, in fact, the changes are unbelievable. I also remember the time there was a professor in Guelph who was talking to in a seminar, and he was suggesting in this was in probably in 87, 88, and he was telling that there will be a time there will be it will be difficult to have a television network, and yeah, we wanted and we asked him why, and he said, no, why should you wait for the television to broadcast the news? You should get the news anytime you like, and that's going to happen. To me, it was unthinkable at that time. I still remember that. But from there, when I came back, I remember the time we used to have marked our calendar on a particular date. You would call me over a phone, and we discussed. Then that, no, to me, as a, that was the phase. But all this has changed. In fact, all this has changed, particularly with mobile technology. It has given people a freedom. I would say it's a freedom for both men and women, educated, uneducated, poor and rich. It's an unbelievable freedom. In particular, I think it has for Bangladesh. If I look at today, the COVID has slowed down the whole economy, but not the whole thing. We have done, we have our reduce, there has been reduction in our growth rate, but the way we are continuing, much of it is due to this internet connectivity. So, and the mobile phone that you talk about, it is actually, to me, it's a surprisingly, given everyone an advantage of doing things from everyone. I still remember the time when garments industries were closed, and then it was mobile technology told the garments worker come back. So in other words, it was easy for them to come back, and that's how they came. uh, there was also a problem of fake news and other things with the internet technology. That has been become a political challenge, challenges to every government around the world. Even right now in COVID, I think the biggest challenge is how to deal with information that is misinformation on COVID. That is also a big challenge. But having said that, I think the whole thing has changed. I remember that time we started East West. You used to write it, send
Yeah,
it to me,
yeah,
and then I would read it and write it back. And we had this East West for many years done, but it was a column that we used to write together.
yes,
And I always dreamed, thought about that. Can we have a day when we can do discussion like what we're doing today? And
yeah,
this is all possible because of this, you
yeah.
know.
And when you look back, like I can remember going to Bangladesh. I think it was in the year 2000. I can't quite remember. It might have been in 2003, but you and I were going uptown, and we are going to meet another guy up in Dhaka somewhere, and we had to stop and call on the landline because he had a cell phone. And we called him on the cell phone, and he told us he was a block away, and we thought it was amazing.
Mhm.
And I think it was shortly after that, 2003, you were resisting getting a cell phone. And then I went back in 2009, and everybody had them. So think about how that has changed the economy for the fishermen in the rivers, right? Or rural people and people that share a cell phone. Just the amount of change has been incredible. Just the other day, I read an article about this service that was coming to Bangladesh that was going to help small shops order their supplies and connect with other suppliers, and just think of the seamlessness that has really helped in the economy. It's been a long time since you and I've met, and I mean it's hard to believe that back in those days, uh, if you weren't there, you weren't there.
Yes, exactly,
Because you're always
exactly.
there now, right?
Yep, it's not only that. I think the other thing that has happened is with the mobile money, something that is not just communication. Imagine Bangladesh has garments worker, no, millions of garments worker, and they want to send money. I was talking to one of the garments worker, one of the agency who are dealing with money, and they said that a lot of time garments workers do not want to see, they keep the receipt because they don't want to show their money sending to their parents. Interestingly, it's a family bondage, but at the same time the girl who is working, she wants to send some money to her parents and don't want her husband to know. And that freedom of a woman was possible because of all this technology.
Yeah, yeah,
So in a way, if you look into it, it come from 3G now to 4G, probably 5G, and I cannot imagine 5G or 6G in the future, because that is the time when you'd be maybe sick somewhere, and that previously it was doctors probably will operate, will discuss with you just like seamlessly, and that is something going to change the whole world. So I think it is time coming.
not only that, but I mean, obviously, you teach a lot, you do research. I was at your place in March. I mean, just think of how things have changed since March with regard to your lectures at the university and the way the students interact with you. Now, that was mostly COVID related. And I remember a time, and of course, it's different everywhere. Bangladesh is a good example because there's so many people concentrated in a small area. We have challenges in Canada because internet access is not the same for me as it is in somewhere in downtown Toronto, living in a rural area. It's not the same for a Canadian living in the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle, that it is for a person living in Vancouver. It's not the same for them versus a person living in the mountains or out in the open prairie or someplace like that. But Bangladesh has a great advantage. I remember you turning to a friend of mine once and you said, "Do you think cell phones would work in Bangladesh?" And he looked back and you said, "You need a lot of towers." Bottom line is it works very well there. There's still challenges here with cost and distance because Canada is so sparsely spaced out.
Actually, what you just said is also important for readers and for viewers to understand that even in Dhaka in Bangladesh, there are remote areas. So when I am talking about teaching, some of my students who nowadays because of COVID attend my lecture. So I was talking to our students. Some of them actually has to stay outside because the connectivity is
Yeah,
weak. So these are problems, but in a sense, and that's one of the reasons why our universities, no, I teach in a private university where students are relatively richer than a public university. And in
yeah,
public universities, we have a hard time reaching out all the students.
Okay.
So despite all of them, despite the density, the moment you get out of the metropolis and go to remote township, maybe outside the mainstream of the economy, the connectivity quality is still low. So those trouble, I think, is happening, and I believe it will be another leap of technology that will help. Well, that's my feeling.
Well, both you and I have a friend that works in the technology satellite industry here in Canada, and he still has to hire people to dust off snow off the satellite dishes in northern Canada. Sometimes that shuts things down. So we still have a long ways to go with this type of thing, but it is interesting. You talked about 5G, 6G, 7G, or what's beyond. I even thought it on your car, there would be holograms that will appear in your car in the future to tell you to go right or left. It's hard to say, but advancing technology is everybody's got to get out of the way. But hopefully, the technology of the future will be something to benefit mankind as a whole, because there's different ways it can go, but hopefully technology will keep advancing and helping us all over the world.
I think so. I think technology is definitely going to help people. Technology will always have good side and bad side, but it is the good side that we should work for. It is
That's
the
right.
good side that's what we should do. We should look forward. And I think we cannot stop the technologies. Technology will come, and there will be an improvement. So if you do not look into that way, the technology, I think would have stayed where we were 100 years ago. But it is the technology that changed our life, that changed our standard of living, that changed the way we talk, they changed the way we do businesses. I still remember the time you told me once in 80s that in your agriculture field, you go to the field and your satellite gives you the information about the soil quality. To
Yeah.
me, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But that's also happening everywhere now.
Yeah,
We can
that's
go
right.
to, so something I can see that it's all good thing that technology bring in. We should not question the misuse of technology, but I think we should always look forward to the good use of technology for humankind.
So, I remember the first time I showed you Google. It was in Bangladesh. I think it was in the year 2000. I said, "It's Google." And you said, "What's that?" And I said, Google. And you sat down your computer. And I remember what you said. You said, "This is amazing," because you were searching your own work and finding it. My gosh. So anyway, that was 20 years ago. So hopefully we'll have another 20 years from now to see some of these amazing good things happen.
Yes, thank you. That was a good discussion for today.
Okay, well, thanks very much. It's nice to see you again, and nice to talk to all you viewers out there, and tune in again.
Thank you very much.
Please subscribe to get updates.